The Nick Scott Effect. The Nick Scott Effect. Available everywhere podcasts are found.
You know that shit'll kill you, right?
I don't think so.
There's only like several surgeon generals that have come to that conclusion.
Oh, it's cannabis. I'm gonna make a better. It'll be a better interview.
Oh, that's
trust
cannabis. I thought it was good old tobacco. I stand corrected.
I don't really do the tobacco too. Although I do like once in a while I'll have a cigar, and once in a while I like a good hookah.
There you go. Well, man, I am so grateful for you joining me. You've got your hands in a million different things, and if there's any audience that's not familiar, you've been on Drunk History, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Gotham, which is a great show, The Letterman Show. Your resume just rolls on and on and on. The one thing I want to ask, being a radio guy for 20 years, I've done radio nationally, and I know that feeling you get just when you get to that kind of small level. How is that to be invited to work on shows like Gotham and all these big productions?
Those things, a lot of those happened for me in New York City when I was younger, and I don't know if I appreciated it as much as I should have at the time, because I was very lucky to be on those shows. The auditioning process is kind of, it's a grind, man.
Sure.
They say an actor books on average 1 in 30 auditions. So you can imagine the numbers aren't in your favor. There's a lot of letdown. So when you get to work on something, especially something like Gotham or Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, at the time these were like network shows. Mm-hmm. It's like you're very fortunate. You're very fortunate, and so looking back on it, man, wasn't I lucky to get on those shows? Not that it didn't take talent too, but
well, you've got the talent. I mean, don't sell yourself short, and I think you did wonderful.
Yeah. Even being a very talented actor, sometimes the littlest things will get you the role. They don't have anything to do with your talent. It's like, the way you dressed for the audition. Your height maybe. Something else might get you the part. So it's just very lucky for me to get any work at all. I'm looking back on it, I was very lucky, and I'm very grateful for those opportunities that I had.
What is, because I was a huge fan. I still love his I was a huge fan then, and I love his Netflix show now. What's David Letterman like in person?
Well, I didn't meet him, so I don't know.
That would be a bucket list item for me if I ever got the chance. As a kid growing up, you had Leno. You had Letterman, you had Conan on the scene, and for whatever reason, man, I don't know. I don't have an answer looking back to teenage Nick and Nick in my 20s, but I always gravitated towards Letterman, and always big fan.
I liked Letterman too, because he didn't pander to the celebrities, because I think those shows are rather ridiculous. It's like they put like this super rich celebrity on, and then these interviews are so boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they always trying to be funny. So I heard something crazy happened to you on your private plane on the way over here, and I'm like, how do you relate to these people? They're like, and they're so dumb too. They're so dumb. They can't tell a story. They're uninteresting. I'm generalizing here. If he gets a comedian on, the comedians know how to tell a story,
sure.
But a lot of these are. Who the hell wants to hear a Kardashian tell a funny story? None of us.
No one.
It's not gonna go well. So I like that Letterman would kind of not live in the world like Jimmy Fallon lives in a world of like make believe, and he eats their shit. So he's just like, come on, keep giving it to me. Isn't this funny, guys? And you're like, I mean, you got to be an idiot to be entertained by by these interviews of super celebs. It's horrible. So I liked Letterman better as well. And I do want to say that I didn't meet Letterman, and it was not for lack of effort. I was cast to play his son in a sketch, and we shot it. I was in the green room the whole time, and so the scene is he's speaking live to camera, and then it's Father's Day. So he goes, I have a visitor at the office today. My son came to visit me. We cut to me in the green room, And then David tells me he loves me, and I call him a fatty and throw a beer bottle at the screen and just I act like a degenerate, So it's like, oh, isn't that a nice Father's Day? So I wasn't in the same room as him, but afterward I asked, the employees if I could, meet him, and they said no, he doesn't really meet. After the show, he likes to just go to his dressing room and then immediately go home. And I was like, but I'm his son, but that didn't work.
That didn't work
either. So,
I think
had it been Fallon, had it been Leno, they would have met me. From what I've heard from other people after telling that story, they were like that, but he's not like that.
Well, I've heard stories that at the end there was a lot of controversy, and I think he had a lot of maybe stuff going on with the network that were causing some problems there. And maybe there towards the end, I think maybe he was just like, get me the hell out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could be very well true. We don't know what people are going through, No. You hear stories all the time. It's like, oh, they didn't take a picture with me. What a jerk. And then they tell people this, and it's just like, bro, you don't know what's going on that day with these people, man. I mean, we all have days where, like, the littlest thing will set me off, and, I want to just be alone, and never mind. And I'm not someone who people bum rush all the time. So imagine how annoying that might be if you're having a bad day. So I don't I don't want to make judgment on these people. We don't know what they're going through, And at the time I was obviously let down, but I get it. And you know what? It's not to take away from my experience. It was amazing.
It was.
Millions and millions of people saw me on that show, and my mom did too. And so it's a big win for me.
Yeah. Another big win for you is your podcast. And I want to touch on that. Me, a little bit about me. I know you don't know me personally. Is I've been in the radio industry for 20 years, 15 as a live on-air personality at several terrestrial radio stations. I left terrestrial radio to focus on national radio, not only doing voiceover stuff and voice tracking, but also providing DJ mix shows for like Sirius XM. And during the pandemic, I started a podcast, did about 15 episodes, and I tell this story because it's kind of funny. The first 15 episodes was just like about DJs, and I found out quickly no one gives a crap about DJs. No one listened. So when I restarted,
which is why they should drop their nicknames. You don't get a nickname if you're a DJ anymore. I'm sorry.
I use my real name.
You have to play. You should have to play an instrument to have a nickname. Sorry.
Like
I don't
Slash.
want to hear this. Exactly.
So this has been going on about a year now, and it's really grown, and I'm super thankful for it. And I know the grind of the podcast, and I see yours has now hit over 1 million downloads. I'm not even close to that yet. So congratulations to you, and I want to hear all about your podcast.
We're about to do We're about to hit 3 million, so
Dang,
that's where we're at now.
Congrats.
Well, thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Mine is more of a grind than most because I do it 5 days a week, so it's a super grind.
Sure.
A lot of comedians have podcasts that are monthly, or one a week is a lot. So to do 5 days a week it takes a lot of time and effort. But it's of all the things I've done in my life, it seems to be the most successful thing. It seems to be the thing that people are resonating with most, or it's affecting people more than anything. And I've done stand-up comedy in front of hundreds of thousands of people in my career, and in various countries all over the world. And I played music before that.
Mm-hmm.
I've acted. I've been in theatrical productions. I've done YouTube sketches. I've done films, short films. Yeah, I've done all kinds of crap, but nothing's ever kind of been successful really on this kind of level than the podcast has for some reason. So for me, it's brought so much to my life. It surprised me that it had this effect on people. It's like really surprised me.
That's incredible.
And it seems to be opening doors for me, and it's going to continue to do so as it grows. It's just getting more and more. I'm getting more and more success with it, more and more downloads, and more people are being exposed to it with very little marketing. I haven't had a break at all. Like no one, I haven't been featured on Spotify or like the things that make podcasts go viral and stuff. That hasn't happened for me. It's just all been doing the legwork and the groundwork and like grinding out and just doing it 5 days a week for years and not stopping.
That's incredible, man.
so-
Well, kudos to you for your hard work.
Thank you. It's I put a lot of effort into it, and then it's starting to pay off, and I get a lot out of it. I'm getting emails all the time of people telling me what my podcast has done for their life, gotten them through something difficult. Those things make me feel really, really good, because I don't make much money at it. So I'm doing it for these other reasons that are sort of intangible.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by the Appalachian Outpost, located in Lyburn, West Virginia. You don't have to Google map it. I'll tell you exactly where that is. Right near the town of Man and Logan, almost right in between the two towns. Well, technically it is between the two towns. And what's so cool about the Appalachian Outpost, we've all seen the explosion in outdoor off-road riding, the side-by-sides, your razors, four-wheelers, big jacked up Jeeps, rock crawlers. I mean, it's the craze right now. The Appalachian Outpost was actually made to serve that industry. So they have cabins on site. Your crew can come down, get a cabin that feels just like home. There's a trailhead right there, the rock house. Almost said rock cave. Rock house of the Hatfield McCoy Trail System is right there off site. So you can hit the trail. You got a cabin to crash. And also they have the Broken Axle on site, which is an amazing bar and grill. So you can get some good food, have a few drinks with your friends. Go to the AppalachianOutpost.com. You could check out all of their amenities. You could book your cabin and your entire trip right there from the website at AppalachianOutpost.com. That's incredible. And one thing that's always interested me, whether it be a rock star, a TV actor, comedian, podcaster, anybody's, we all have a start. We all have that moment where you're like, this is something I want to do. What made you have the desire to jump in the podcast world? And then I guess a second question to add on to that, to really grind it out 5 days a week.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was like that from the get-go. It actually was 7 days a week in the beginning.
Oh, man. Good Lord.
Yeah, a podcast hosting company put out a job on one of these like casting websites where they were looking for content producers to, create content on their brand new platform, and they wanted people to do 7-day-a-week shows to help it get off the ground, because they had no one really using it. So they were paying you monthly to do a daily show on there, and they had some choices: sports news, finance news, tech news, world news, entertainment news. It was all news.
Sure.
Because of what else you're going to do 7 days a week, So I applied for the sports news show because I could talk about sports every day. I would never get sick of it, and I don't really know much about the other categories, And they were like, "Oh, they really liked my submission, but they already had a sports. They found someone to do the sports section that they liked a lot, and but they said, we would love for you to." We like your personality, and you got comedy chops, clearly. We'd like you to maybe do another show, maybe entertainment news. And I don't like any of that other crap. I can't talk about celebrities 7 days a week. I'd rather kill myself.
All of us. And make all of us want to kill ourselves.
I mean, I'm not up on like mainstream news. I don't know about world news really. I mean, a little bit, but I was like, I didn't feel comfortable doing those other things. So I just pitched my own idea. I was like, what if I do weird news? And they're like, well, why don't you send us an example? So then I recorded it like a sample episode and sent it over, and they really liked it. So they said, okay, well, we're going to pay you every month to do this. You got to do 7 days a week. They only wanted like under 5 minutes though every day, so it was like really short. The podcast was super short in the beginning. I was doing 3-minute long shows, like little news segments that were just a minute. And then at the end of like 8 months of that, they said, okay, we're not going to pay you anymore. We got enough users on the platform. Would you like to? But you can keep your show going if you'd like to. You have a following. At that point, I had a following, and I was getting a lot of interaction and feedback from listeners. That was already starting to happen, and so I thought to myself, well, maybe I'll just keep it and figure out how to monetize it. But I seemed to be had a nice jump start. And so it kind of just made sense to like, let me see if I can figure out a way to monetize this and grow it on my own. I'm not going to do 7 days a week. I'll probably do 3 or 5 or something like that, and we'll kind of roll with it. And so I just kept at it, and then eventually, got some sponsors, and then I heard about Patreon, so I started a Patreon. Just figured out ways to
make it work,
to make a little money with it, and then ended up finding a format that worked for me, which is three news segments every day. And then on Friday, we do Florida Fridays, so only news from Florida, weird news from Florida. So that became a hit, and gets way more downloads than the other episodes. And so it kind of worked it out, and it ended up being what it currently is now.
Florida's the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh man, it's amazing. Today's Friday too, so I just finished. I just published today's Florida Friday, and this stuff is so great, man. It's just people can't get enough of that Florida degenerate behavior.
Yeah, we're heading down to Florida in 2 weeks. We got our kids a trip to Disney World for Christmas, so I'll be in Orlando the 15th. Or the 23rd
great
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, bring your tasers.
Yeah. Well, for us, usually we stay on or around the park on the resort, so we don't get a lot of the traditional Florida stuff. But you see on TikTok and Instagram #WhatTheFlorida. So that's a gold mine too. But I've learned in this podcast thing, it is a grind. I've loved radio and entertainment stuff like this for 20 years, and when I started this, it kind of allowed me to still have that same outlet without working in radio. I didn't want to go back to being a radio personality. In this day and age, it just doesn't pay very well at all. Streaming is just killing the industry. So what was mind-blowing to me was once the podcast started really taking off, so I restarted it in June. And by August, September, I'm getting hundreds and hundreds of streams. And then by October, I'm getting thousands and thousands of streams, plus thousands of views on YouTube and Facebook. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I was not only proud of that, but then folks actually start coming to me about sponsorships, like you said. And I'm like, wait, what? You want to pay me to be on my podcast? Is this how this works? And actually got a couple local businesses. One's the two I have right now at the time we're recording this is a place called the Appalachian Outpost. They're a resort that caters to like side-by-side off-road riders. And another one, believe it or not, they're doing like a tattoo removal for me because I have tattoos everywhere. And it's called the Facial Center, but they do tattoo removal, and they sponsored to pitch tattoo removal. And I'm like, I'll do it. But anyways, the fact that folks even wanted to be on a podcast first is amazing, and then mine is even more amazing. I can't imagine the emails and the, attention that you get on a bigger podcast platform.
Yeah, it's not crazy, but I get, I get offers, trickle in. It's becoming a huge advertising platform because where else are they going to go? There's no more like
radio's almost dead.
Radio's dying, right? Yeah. Local cable isn't really a thing. People don't even have cable anymore.
I don't.
In many places, I don't either. What do they can't afford to advertise on like Hulu platforms, and there's very little live television. It's basically sports, and you can't break into there without a lot of money. So how are you going to get an ad on during an NBA game, which is really the only way people are watching live TV? So podcasting has become huge with the sponsorships. I mean, of course, there's YouTube. You can kind of figure it out. Now, people are moving to Facebook ads and YouTube ads, Instagram ads, and podcasts are now the place as well. So, I'm not surprised that you're getting offers if you're putting up numbers. I mean, this is how it should be. This is where the money's going, and as your show grows, it'll just be more and more opportunity for you, which is tremendous.
How did I'm interested in your show? How did it really start to take off? Was it about 6 months in, a year in? I noticed it was about the 6 month mark, and mine's a weekly show, so I do one a week. Was about the 6 month mark where I went from like 100, 200, and it really started to move upwards. When did you really start seeing the numbers come in on Weird AF News podcast?
Oh, I'd probably say maybe 2 years ago. So like 3 years in, maybe
Good Lord. Wow.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a
We're
lot of
like,
grind, man. That's a lot of passion to keep going that long.
yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy, right? At some level, what's wrong with me?
Well, I think a lot of us who do this, we're creatives,
Yeah,
and we have a
yeah,
desire and a passion to create.
yeah.
And
Sure.
when you have that fire, man, you got to go.
If it wasn't so easy for me to do it too, like the recording process is like, I mean, I can kind of pump these out quickly. So if it required way more effort, like if I wasn't a good reader, let's say, some people can't read quickly. I mean, I'm such a reader. I've always been my whole life like reading all kinds, reading books. I mean, ever since I was a kid, just always reading books.
Sure.
So I'm like a high level reader. I can blow through like complex articles with huge words, and I can blow through them in one take, and it's no problem. I don't get stumbled. I don't get stuck on that. It's like I got that skill. If I didn't have that, this shit would take me much longer, and I don't know if I would have kept at it.
Yeah.
So because I can kind of get through them so quickly, it doesn't feel like a whole shitload of work, and I'm not really doing much editing either. I'm improvising the recording, and I edit as I go because I got through the app that I use allows me to pause the recording while I maybe gather a thought or whatever, and it also allows me to go back, undo the last recording. So if I had paused, let's say I did an intro, and then I did a little bit more of the story, then my opinion, and I'd stop. If I didn't like the last stop, I can go back, and then now I pick up right where that other So rather than getting,
you're just doing it on the fly, which is very easy.
So doing it on the fly, because if I did it the other way, it would take up too much time. Like if I recorded the whole thing, let's say I'm doing a 5-minute story, 3-minute story, and I recorded with mistakes and pausing to think about crap. Sometimes the article isn't written; it doesn't make sense. I got to look at it and be like, okay, I'll read this chunk here because it should have been up there because the writer screwed it up or whatever. That may be 15 minutes of audio total time, and I'd have to go in and pull out all that. Would just take so much time. Whereas this way, I got it so streamlined that I can kind of do it quickly, and I don't have to write anything out. I'm just reading the story and improvising and my reaction and doing voices and doing that kind of stuff. So that makes it easier. It doesn't feel like I'm not dying over here. Editing is horrible.
Yeah.
I hate editing. I do enough video editing as it is, and I can't stand it.
Really?
If I had to edit my audio for every day to do the show, I don't know if I would have been able to keep going. Yeah, even when I wasn't making much money, it's kind of fun. I just turn on the thing. Improv. I like to improv. I like to try to be funny, as I've done it my whole life, and so it's been fun for me. It doesn't seem like too much work. The work is, the marketing and all that crap. That's where the work is. That's where.
Speaking of your
no
improv,
one likes that stuff.
Speaking of improv, I crawled your social media. There's some amazing photos of you there at the Laugh Factory and some other awesome places. That's something I've never had the quote unquote balls to do. I don't know that I'm that funny. Do you get butterflies or jitters when you get on stage to do comedy? Because there's always that chance you're just going to bomb, right? Comedians bomb. So that would scare the hell out of me.
Well, I've been doing this a long, long time. I've bombed many times, so now I'm not afraid of bombing anymore.
Yeah.
It's just it's like boxing, I guess. You have enough matches. You're not afraid to take a punch anymore.
Yeah.
You're not even afraid to lose because you've lost.
Have you ever been heckled?
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah,
you get on that stage, you're gonna get heckled for sure.
What's the worst? What's the worst heckling that's ever happened to you? Has anyone tried to bum rush the stage and do a Chris Rock and Will Smith?
Oh yeah, I've been attacked on stage.
Really?
In Queens before. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I've been attacked. This kind of stuff happens, man. Comedians, it's you're up there in front of strangers, and people get triggered, and then oftentimes they've been drinking.
Yeah,
and that can lead to incidents. It's going to lead to incidents. You're lucky if you just get heckled in your career just a few times. You're lucky that no one's thrown something at you. You know, comedy can be very innocent. You know, but then comedy can expose dark truths as well.
Sure.
I think the best comedy does that, and it touches a nerve. And I think the best comedy touches a nerve. And some people can't take it.
Yeah,
they can't take it. And then now, and they're also drunk. And then it can become a scene, and it can become dangerous for the comedian involved. But this is what I signed up for. I'm okay with it. I'm from Boston. I can throw knuckles if I have to. I'm not afraid of that either.
Do you feel the Will Smith, Chris Rock thing? Because I've heard a lot of podcasters talk about this. Do you think that opened the door for more instances like that to happen?
No, I don't think it. I haven't seen that, and I've been at comedy clubs every single night since then, and I haven't noticed a change at all.
Okay.
In that there's been no increase that I've seen,
right,
from my own experience, and I haven't heard too many stories.
Do you think that was a stunt?
Either. No, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't think it was a stunt.
I've wondered.
Yeah, I think we all wondered in the beginning.
Yeah.
People were like dissecting the film like it was the Zapruder tape, like trying to figure out. Oh no, look at the way Chris took the punch, took the slap like he was a stunt man. You see, and it's like, no.
Kudos
bro,
to that guy though, because after it happened, he had the best line I think should be put on his tombstone. Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I wanted to fall. I was crying. And he got me just so quick,
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that. I don't know if I could have not done something, not retaliated in that moment.
Yeah.
In that moment, I probably would have ran off. I probably would have ran up and tackled him from behind myself, and which I don't know how that would have. I don't know how people would have taken that, but
I'm wondering.
I don't know if I could have just taken that. That's very humiliating. And yeah.
Well, Chris Rock's career, they've showed numbers, ticket sales at his show since.
Yeah, ticket sales immediately went bananas. For him.
But look at Will Smith.
They should.
He ain't doing shit. It's like he's been blacklisted almost.
Yeah, I mean, well, you buy the ticket, you take the ride, bro. You can't you can't do that and then expect to be okay. I mean, that night he won an award, so it was kind of like there was no implication immediately, but then down the road, it's going to be implication, as there should be. You can't do that. You just can't.
So what do you feel? We were talking before. You said some of your favorite subjects to kind of talk about and joke about are politics. And how do you feel about old Donald Trump joining in the 2024 presidential race? I know he's given comedians a lot of gold material.
Yeah, I mean, Saturday Night Live paid the bills with him, right?
Yeah, for sure.
For 4 years. Kind of over the Trump comedy, to be honest with you. So I really
some of
don't
us
look
are.
forward to him. I don't think if him getting into office means 4 more years of more Trump stuff, I don't want to really see it. To be honest with you, I mean, there's other reasons I don't want him to get into office, obviously.
Right,
but that one is like, I'm just over it, man.
Now, do you feel?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that he's running. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, he's a megalomaniac. You can't stop him from that.
Do you feel Grandpa Joe may be a little too old and maybe a younger cat should get in there?
Well, it has nothing to do with my feeling. It's very clear that he's too long in the tooth at this point.
Unfortunately.
But it's like, do you want an old lobotomized president or Trump? I'd still take the old lobotomized president, to be honest with you. I'd take a president on life support or in a coma over Trump, to be honest with you. I don't, so that's how I feel about it. I'll vote, and it'll be not for him. So that'll be my extent of it. I don't like the other guy either, but it's just like you get into the position where it's the choice we don't really have a choice. The choice is between one lying rich bastard and another lying rich bastard.
Yeah.
So I'll take the one that seems to lie a little less.
The best of two evils, they always say, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, what I think might happen is you might see some of these cats, like from Florida and Texas, who weren't so strict during COVID, really excelling to maybe that level, because I think there's a large part of the country that are very bitter and resentful to how things were conducted during COVID, all the lockdowns and businesses being shuttered and families losing business and things like that. And I think they're looking to the leaders, whoever they may be, whatever the party affiliation may be, Republican, Democrat, whatever the hell, that maybe might steer away from something like that happening again in the future.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're talking about Ronnie D throwing his hat into the ring to run for president, which I hope happens, because then the Republican Party will be divided. And that's divide and conquer, as they say. So if he throws his hat in the ring, I would love that. I would love that.
And you're in L.A., right?
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles.
So it's a very kind of left-leaning area in California.
Yeah, too much.
Yeah.
Very, very left.
Did you think about leaving, kind of like Joe Rogan and the rest of the folks in California did during the pandemic?
Oh, I did think about relocating because I wanted to do stand-up comedy so badly. And so I thought about uprooting and going to Texas or Florida. Thankfully, I toughed it out. I didn't. But I did consider it. That's how badly I wanted to do stand-up. Yeah.
Well, I think Bert Kreischer, I think it was Bert Kreischer, and kudos to that guy, man. He's a workhorse. He came up with was it him that came up with the idea of doing the parking lots and the people honk their horns?
Oh, well, I know the guy who ran a show like that here in a parking lot at the Magic Club. It wasn't Bert. Bert was probably on it at that time. Yeah. But, yeah, that was happening. There was shows like that.
Well, it's just incredible to kind of keep that going so you guys could continue to work,
Yeah, and of course the big filler was the Zoom comedy shows. We just everyone doing stuff on Zoom and even getting paid to do it. There's still a little bit of that left, actually. People are still running Zoom shows.
Did you ever try
that? Kind of kept people. Yeah, I did a few, but I didn't like it very much. I had to stop. It was like, it was very unfulfilling. It was like, I bombed and you saw my shitty apartment. Great. I didn't like it.
That's fun.
It's not the same. It's just not the same. It's nowhere near the same.
No, if you bomb and you're in a nice club, you're still in a nice club. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But you're at the behest of people's download speeds. Someone's laughing too late because they're in some crappy service area.
Right.
It's just the whole thing's horrible for comedy, which is all about timing. Comedy's about timing.
Yep.
So you can't, when you have people that aren't on in the same, they're not present together at that point. Someone's like getting the information a few seconds after the other one. That's not present.
No, absolutely.
And so
when, how long of a gap did you have from when things got shut down to when you could do your first live show again?
Oh, okay. So, I came back from Japan in end of March 2020. My March shows were canceled.
Did you come back before they started shutting all the travel down?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cutting it close.
March 2020, I cut it close. Then my April shows were canceled, and then it all went away. And so then I had a show in June in Orange County. A booker reached out to me. It's like, you want to come and do a show in Orange County where no one wears masks or gives a fuck? I was like, I wanted to do a show so bad that I did it. Yeah, I went down there, packed bar. Only person wearing a mask was the one waitress. So I did that, and then didn't do another show for another probably couple months. then some guy reached out to me who I had never met before. He said, "Hey, I got a private space down here in Orange County, and someone told me you're really funny. I watched your clips, and I'd like to hire you to do a private show for me and some of my friends indoors." And I was like, "All right." He goes, "We're not wearing masks. We've all had COVID already." Okay. I said, "Well, maybe give me a little bit more money. I'll bring another guy," because I didn't want to do it. I don't know. I just felt safer going. I didn't know where I was going.
Right. Sure.
So I reached out to my buddy Adam Hunter, and he hadn't done a show in a while. And I said, "Hey, you want to do a live show, private, Orange County, no masks, indoors?" He's like, "Fuck it, let's do it." So we did it, and it was more than 15 of his friends. It was probably 25 of his friends, but it was amazing. It was amazing. And then the guy hit me up the next week and was like, "We want to do another one in a couple weeks." I said, "Okay, well, give me a budget. We'll do 4 comics." He's like, "Okay, sounds good." And I mean, I wasn't sure if I could get 4 comics to do this gig, but comics stage time was scarce at that point.
Yeah.
I think we were just sick of doing Zoom shows. Like, I want a live crowd.
Right.
So pretty deep in the pandemic, I got lucky that this guy hit me up, and I was doing shows, man. I was doing shows. I was one of the only indoor shows too. Eventually, there was outdoor shows started to pop up here in LA. A lot of independent outdoor shows.
Those got really
2
popular
clubs,
kind of towards the end there. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 clubs had outdoor spaces. They built a stage, put out chairs. They were doing shows. That was only 2 clubs out of how many clubs are out here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clubs in LA. 2 had outdoor spaces, so they were doing shows. But that was like a battle to get on those stages. And then we had this indoor show that we were doing. It was kind of secretive too. It was like we weren't telling everybody about it. We're kind of keeping it on the DL because it was like a really cool little thing that we had that was ours. And so me and Adam still doing the show. We just did a show December 22nd, right before Christmas.
Oh, there you go.
And we're doing the next one's January 11th. So like a year and a half more later, we're still doing this show down there.
That's incredible.
Indoors. For the cannabis industry, so they're just smoking like crazy in the same space we've been doing it on, and we do 2 a month. It's nuts. It's nuts. But yeah, I was fortunate to be able to get some paid work during that time because I was in a bad place, very depressed, and I needed that. That helped a lot.
Well, I think you could go on Google or any site and you can find study after study that proves exactly that. The amount of depression and anxiety the pandemic caused society is unfathomable. When did now are things still kind of restricted in LA or is it pretty much wide open now?
No, it's wide open.
Yeah.
I keep hearing trickles from the mainstream media out here that they're like, the numbers are back up and they're going to impose mask rules again, but it hasn't happened. And to be honest,
I don't think people put up with it over here.
People aren't going to put up with it here anymore either, I don't think. I mean, they can try and impose that, but I think we're beyond being able to do that again. I don't think people are going to listen, even in California where people are a little bit more cooperative. I think we've gone beyond that.
Yeah.
I don't think people are going to
here in West Virginia
allow this behavior.
So I'm from Ohio, but I live in West Virginia, and I think the state gets a bad rap. Being an Ohioan, you hear all the jokes, but I tell you, the people in this state are awesome, and I'm not just saying that for brownie points. My wife's a West Virginian. I mean, just good people, and like you said, people down in Orange County, they don't give a crap, and they're not wearing masks. I'm not saying not everybody didn't. You would go into a Target or into a restaurant or whatever, and they were open back up, and you'd see people with masks on, and it was weird at first, but I would say most wouldn't. The only time I saw it be an issue was there's a local grocery store about a mile from our house, and the owner, he was kind of older, and I think he had some health issues, so he was kind of really scared. If you were older in that time and had some health issues, I think that is par for the course. There were my dad was scared, but a guy walked into shop and had no mask on, and they were like toe to toe. Me and another guy were looking at each other like, are we going to have to break this up? And he kicked him out. He said, if you ain't wearing a mask, get the hell out of my store, But that's the only time in a year and a half that I ever saw any type of escalation like that, or anyone really enforcing it. But I lost, so I still DJ shows and DJ events. I lost about 40 bookings myself in that time. And I remember one of my first shows back, this cat called me up. They had canceled their wedding and everything because of the pandemic. And he said, look, man, we're going to have this on my granddaddy's farm out back in the pasture. And we're going to do this under the radar. Ain't no one going to know about it but our friends and family. You want to come out and rock it? And I was like,
sure.
I was like, hey, man, will you pay me this? And he said, I'll have it in cash. I was like, say no more. And it was an under the radar thing.
Yeah, but you got to do that. That's a gig. You got to do that. That's a good gig. And people need that. People needed entertainment. It was like, at the time we were doing those comedy shows, I was like, these people need this shit, man. They were like really laughing. And you're like, wow, they really wanted this. They really, and I was like, you're doing a good thing. People need.
Well, I think you guys
to gather
more than me, because we were talking about the depression. People wanted to laugh. They wanted to escape.
Yeah. People did want to laugh, So when all that went away, it was just it was just an extra barrier towards getting your sanity back. If you're like, I can't even see live. I can't even get live entertainment. Like, I need something. The good things in life were going away.
Yeah.
And that just does that. You need those things to crawl out of a depression.
This episode of the podcast is sponsored by the Facial Center. They're located in Canal City, a suburb of Charleston, West Virginia. They are a full-service medical spa there to fit your aesthetic needs, including pedio thread lifts. Their whole menu is at thefacialcenter.com. One thing they're doing with me is a tattoo removal. So I've got quite a few tattoos. I've often joked that I haven't learned my lesson because I have plans to get even more. But anyone who has quite a bit of tattoos, we have some oops. Maybe I shouldn't have got that 10 years ago. And I have one of those. So I'm on my third session. I have, I think, 3 more to go before this tattoo is gone. And they're doing a fantastic job. So if you have an oops and you need a tattoo to go bye-bye, maybe you got someone's name you shouldn't have, they can help you out at thefacialcenter.com. So tell us about what's on the near future and the future for Jonesy. Comedy, podcast, TV, what you got brewing?
Oh, well, no, the podcast will be going forever and ever. Just trying to grow it more and more. I have a new project that is I released about 4 months ago called Comedians React. It's a podcast, but it's better watched on YouTube. It's more of a YouTube series. Mm-hmm. Me and another comedian, we break down. We watch a clip, a joke of a comic that inspires us, and we break it down technically. Like, we just go really deep, kind of nerding out on the stand-up craft. So it's not for everybody, but big fans of stand-up will appreciate it. We go into the technical details of the joke, and we go into the comic's life and talk about situations in live comedy that we've had that relate to this and that, and we just go really, really deep into it. So it's for stand-up comedy nerds, but it's called Comedians React. There's a link to it in my Instagram profile.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do in the show notes here. I'm happy to put all your links, your
sure,
socials, your podcast, your
cool.
YouTube. And folks can just go right to the show notes and click the link. You can go to all of Jonesy's cool stuff.
If people really dig stand-up, like nerd out about it, it's like you'll love it, because me and another comic, between the two of us, we probably have, I don't even know, 45 years of stand-up comedy experience together.
Wow.
My buddy is a kind of a legend. He's worked with everybody. He kind of carries the show for us, for sure. As much as I know, and as much as experience I've had, he's had more. So, and he's very good at communicating these things to an audience. This is why I decided to start this series in the first place, because whenever we hung out and got coffee, we would talk about the craft of stand-up, and he would just go. He would go to places I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I thought this is a show. So we'll continue to do this. We've covered Patrice O'Neill. We did Louis C.K. We did Chappelle was our first episode. We did Richard Jeni, and then we're going to do Ali Wong, and we're going to do Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to cover And, you know, we did Pryor as well, Richard Pryor. We're going to do Carlin coming up. And, yeah, we're going to keep doing our, you know, legends in the game, you know, Sam Kinison, like this kind of stuff, and just break down a joke of theirs. And you get to actually watch the joke. I put the actual clip on while we're watching
Sure.
it. Same with the podcast. I'll put the audio of the clip so you can hear the joke and then hear us talk about it as we go. So yeah, Comedians React is pretty cool. I dig that. And just doing a lot of stand-up as well. So trying to do more and more of it. I've been getting more work than I ever have in my life. So it helps, you know, pay the bills a little bit. So I'm just going to keep doing that. And so I look forward to kind of traveling a little bit more while doing comedy. Well, I don't really travel that much to do comedy. Like, I'll go places I can get to in a car, you know, like I'll drive up to San Francisco, or I'll drive to Phoenix, or I'll drive down to San Diego. But I've kind of just limited myself to this area. But, you know, a few weeks ago I flew to Dallas and did a weekend there. So I had a good time with that. So I'm going to look at going forward, traveling outside the West a little bit more to do shows. But it's like tricky. You got to get the money to be right. I don't want to lose money on these things. But
Yeah.
I'm learning that the people that listen to the podcast, they kind of want me to come to their area and do my thing. You know, I get asked a lot of times, "Are you ever going to come to Richmond and do a show?" You know, and it's like, I mean, I probably could make that happen if I put the effort in, and so why not do more of that?
Yeah.
You know, because and it gives me a chance to go out there and meet listeners of my show. Like I met a few in Dallas, and that was kind of a cool experience. You know, I had a couple take me to brunch, and it was just like, and that made their year.
Yeah.
You know, taking me to brunch, it meant everything to them, and they were cool, and I had a great time. So like I liked that, and I thought, why not go out there and do more of that and meet the listeners of the show. It just seems like it's a lot of fun to me. Maybe
That's
even
incredible.
You know, I've even dreamed, Nick, of like getting a van and just spending 3 months this summer just driving across the country to these cities, and, you know, booking myself, doing a live show, and staying with listeners, crashing on their couch or something along the way. I mean, I could probably make something like that happen, and what a fun adventure that would be. And
Be a fun adventure. I would hope not to see your name in the news. Like a guy
being
puts you
murdered.
in a pit. It puts the lotion on the skin again.
I know. So there's so much risk to this now, especially we live in this crazy world, you know, where you don't know what someone's going to do to you. So
Comedian Jonesy's head found buried in some random guy's backyard in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
I have to like really take precautions, obviously. But I don't know. It could be an amazing adventure. I think I'd get a lot out of that. Yeah. I mean, you know, why the hell not?
So I think, if I remember correctly, Steve-O from Jackass actually has a podcast van that he drives around and does shows, podcasts, and actually like lives in as his like tour bus van thing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've heard of those things being built. I know another comic who converted like an RV into a podcast studio. So yeah, there's options. I wouldn't need anything sophisticated really. I got a good portable setup that I have that I take when I'm traveling, because I haven't missed too many episodes. Even when I'm in other countries traveling, I manage to pump them out. You know, recording in hotel rooms or wherever I got to be. Mm-hmm. So I'd be able to, you know, make it work along the way. I wouldn't have to miss an episode. I just need internet, basically.
Yeah, basically you could really make it work. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be a fun adventure, and I think I could probably make some money at it. I think that could happen too.
Are you keeping your toes in the TV and acting world at all?
So, you know, I get the occasional audition, but I'm not really into it like I used to be, because I don't like waiting around for things to happen for me. I don't want to wait.
Yeah, I understand.
So to me, it's kind of like, it kind of becomes frustrating. Like, I'm gonna wait for you to give me an opportunity. Everything that's ever worked out for me, it's like I've made the opportunity myself. So I'm like, it just seems kind of like unproductive for me to like. I see my actor friends too, and I kind of feel bad for them. You know, they have a lot of time on their hands. They feel like because they're waiting for jobs, whereas I go out every night and do stand up, and I record something every day, and like. So I feel like I'm working, and I don't feel like I'm missing on something.
Sure.
And they all feel like they're missing out on opportunity. Oh, these opportunities, if they'll just come to me, these opportunities. It's like, to me, I've never been able to. I feel uncomfortable sitting on my thumbs like that. So, I wrote something that I wrote a script that some friends of mine that make things on a bigger level than me. They like it a lot. So. We've had a table read
that's awesome.
for the project.
Yeah.
And I've started casting it. And these two other guys and me are going to, in 2023, begin to make this. So
that's great, man. Congrats.
Yeah, and it's something that showcases my writing and my acting. And so I wrote something for myself. So this is like where I've spent my time instead of like auditioning and whatnot.
Well, you said you get 1 in 30 roles. I mean, that's a grind in and of itself.
That's average.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you imagine some get 1 in 60 or whatever the hell, because that's, it averages out. Yeah, it's a total grind. And it's not like I'm even auditioning for stuff that's substantial. At there's a certain level that I'm at where if I do get an audition for some streaming project, it's just like this low co-star role, or where I'm in one episode, and I got maybe 2 scenes in one episode, and it's just like, that's not, first of all, it's not going to really pay the bills, and that's like, I'm going to spend all that, it's like put all of my energy into just booking like this one episode in a series, and I just don't like, where's my time and energy going to go? Will I write something that I'm the star of? Why not write something and then write it well, so that when people read it, they go, "Holy shit, this should be made!" You know. And so this is what I've done, and I got a couple of fellas, one of which I know back from Boston, who they have the equipment and the money, and they like it a lot. So I'm gonna go that route and see what happens.
No, dude, that's great. And looking at your bio, I have to ask, I've never been there, but it's legendary. Did you ever get to do comedy at the store before it closed?
The store? Which store?
The Comedy Store in was it Hollywood? You always hear all the big, huge, mega comedians talk about the store.
Yeah, it hasn't closed, though. It's still open.
It's still open? Oh, man, I thought I heard a podcast that it closed.
No.
Huh.
Well, no,
I'm sorry
it's
that
been
I misspoke.
Open. Yeah, no, it's totally, it's open. Yeah, no, I performed there last year, twice.
Awesome.
Yeah, very hard to get on the stages in there. So yeah, I'm not exactly a regular there.
I've been told it's very like a hallowed place, because so many legends have come through there, cutting their teeth and coming up.
Yeah. The other clubs too, just as hallowed in my opinion. The Laugh Factory's been around since 1979.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is like, the Improv's been there for a long time too. So all 3 of those clubs are pretty like legendary.
Where would you say you play the most?
So definitely the Laugh Factory. I have a better relationship with them. In fact, I spent Christmas at the club. All day helping them feed the homeless.
Oh,
and,
good! Wow.
Entertain the homeless as well. So yeah, I got a decent relationship with them, and I like what they're doing over there. They do nice things like feed the homeless on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a great club, and I've worked for their club up in Reno as well. They have other locations in Long Beach, and I really dig them. It's very difficult to break into these clubs out here in LA for sure. I would say harder than New York City.
Mm-hmm.
These clubs are, there's not as much stage time out here, and there's a lot of stars out here. So all the stars, they want to get on stage, and they only want to go on stage at those 3 places. Yeah, they don't want to do the lesser shows, so they only want to go on stage. So it's like. So when Adam Sandler gets up, he only wants to go to one of those clubs. Mm-hmm. So because of that, hard to get on those stages. Very, very difficult. You spend your whole life just hanging around the Comedy Store just to get a sniff of that stage.
Yeah.
So, as I alluded to earlier, I'm not like someone that likes to sit around and wait for opportunities. So, I've hung out there. I hang out there a little bit. I hang out a little bit more at the Laugh Factory. I'll hang out at the Improv, but I don't really rely on that as a goal for myself. Like, oh, if I could just be on this stage, then I'm winning. No, it's like.
And you've come across my TikTok too, so you're utilizing all the platforms available to you. Not only just per se a stage, but you're also getting out to where people are in their homes, right there on their phones or whatever their app is.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that, because I didn't really post, and I actually ceased posting on TikTok a few months ago because it really wasn't working out for me, and I was kind of like, let me spend time in other places. But yeah, I mean, it's really required of you now to be to have your performances out there digitally, or whatever it is that you do digitally. You have to.
Absolutely.
You have to. So, I mean, I'm witnessing comics like book their own tours, and they don't even need a booking manager to help them. They just book their own tours, and then they use social media to get the word out there. And because they have such a huge following, they sell tickets. And
I know a lot of
using that to sell tickets.
Comedians right now that do their own marketing and all their own merch and all their own booking, and you don't have like managers and agents and stuff anymore like it used to be.
Yeah, you don't need that if you have that big old following. So so I look at those comics, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the new recipe for success, is to get some traction on social media, and then through that you can get yourself booked and sell merch and sell tickets, and your followers will just come out to the show to support you, to see you. So the podcast has been kind of a thing that that I have that seems to be like a vehicle to do that for me. Rather, like I do have a presence on Instagram. I don't have a crazy amount of followers. Like I don't seem to be able to use that to sell tickets, but the podcast seems to be like,
that's awesome, man.
This can get people out. I think I just mention it on the show. I'm gonna be here. If you're in the area, boom. This seems to be the thing that's gonna work for me. And I hope it will. It seems to be the beginnings of these, and I look forward to that, to be able to just make my living off the podcast like that. I mean, what a dream!
What a dream!
Sell tickets all over the place just from this dumb little podcast I record in my closet. It's like wild.
Well, it's a great segue, and I usually keep my podcast around an hour, and we're about to that point. So, tell us the show, where we could find it, your YouTube, the podcast. And, of course, I'm going to put all of these links in the show notes so you could find them right there with a click of your finger or button. Where can the folks find your shows and the podcast?
Thank you, Nick. Well, Weird AF News is the name of the podcast. Weird AF News can be found on any podcast player, like whatever it is that you listen on. It'll be available, and it's even on YouTube at Weird AF News, Instagram Weird AF News, and I got the website weirdafnews.com, which has links to all of the places you can go to listen to it. So
I can't believe you do that in your closet. I listened to several today to kind of get a feel for your style, and it sounds professionally produced, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I got a decent microphone, and the closet is like it's a good little sound booth in itself, because it's just packed with clothes, and they absorb the sound. It's perfect. Yeah. It's perfect. And it's big enough for me to sit in a chair, and I have a little table situation to put the computer on. It's just big enough to fit me with the clothes in there. So it ended up being just really, really the perfect setup for me. It's working out. And people kind of think it's funny that I record in a podcast. They often doubt me. Like, you don't really. Yes. And if you don't believe me, you can watch the YouTube clips. I'm in a closet.
That's
bro.
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, man, so, if you ever get a show in Ohio, West Virginia, anywhere over this way, man, please reach out to me. I'd love to have you back on here to talk about it. Maybe we could help put some butts in seats at your show if it's out here on the East Coast.
That would be tremendous, because I would love to do that. Now, ordinarily I wouldn't consider going to West Virginia for a show, but like I know you,
yeah.
So now now I will.
Well, we used to have a place here called the Comedy Zone, and it was in a hotel. It used to be like a nightclub at the bottom of this hotel, and it's a nice hotel. And they turned it into a comedy club, and it was the Comedy Zone for probably 10 years, and then COVID was the end of that. They've since remodeled, and where that club was is now like a nice ballroom, and they have like weddings and stuff in there. So in the Charleston area, I think there's some like open mics at some bars and stuff like that, but we've got plenty of bars and nightlife, but none that are like just comedy. And I don't know if there's any in Morgantown or Huntington. I could look into that, but I think you got to go to like Pittsburgh, Philly, Columbus, Lexington, Richmond, those areas to get like big comedy clubs, if that makes sense.
So what are we talking for a minimum drive for you to get to like a legit comedy show then?
2 hours, 3 hours.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a crime that you can't drive to comedy in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's crazy to me.
Nope. Now, unless there's one in Huntington or Morgantown, then that would, or Beckley. That's kind of around me. The other cities around me that are about an hour, hour and a half. If there's a comedy club in those states or those cities, excuse me, then yeah, it's about an hour or so. But I'm not sure.
So then, like we should talk about this because maybe I want to just figure this out as I go because there's ways I could do this. But like I'm thinking now, like let's say I go to a place that already has a comedy show and it's 2 hours from you. Well, it's a place that always has comedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't need comedy. It's happening. However, if I hooked up with you, let's say we do a show in your area, there's a demand for a show in your area.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's like now it's a thing. Now people are like, oh my God, live comedy coming here. This is not something. If I concentrate on areas like that, in other words, stay away from the main, the big cities, which already have comedy, and like, am I going to really stand out? Yeah, I'll kind of stand out because I got TV credits a little bit, but they're not, they still have comedy on a regular. It's not a special event, but if I choose areas where fans of my show and fans of me live that are a little bit more away from the big cities, now we have maybe a recipe for success.
I agree.
For putting butts in the seats.
We get the.
It just might be a thing to consider, and you just giving me this idea.
I love it.
Of the circumstance that you're in now, which is living in a place that doesn't have regular.
We get the
comedy that you know of.
We get the big names, the big touring names in our arenas and theaters.
Arenas, sure, yeah. Okay.
We get Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, Rodney Carrington's going to be here, I think, in like 2 weeks. Jeff Dunham, those guys have all been through here. But that's really about it, man.
Yeah, and that's a big arena show, and those tickets are, whatever they are, probably $50 and up. Whereas if I come there, you come see me for $20, bro.
Can't beat it,
right?
I think we're onto something here, man. I like.
I think so. Just toying with this idea that I have lately. The more and more I talk to people about it, the more it seems like kind of doable, and I'm getting new ideas of how to approach it, like talking to you, and I think it's something I totally should consider.
I need to link you up with a friend of mine. We both worked in radio, and he does comedy, stand-up comedy. His name's Brandon Lowe. He's a fantastic, I think, talent. He never, I don't think, got the opportunity to get maybe at the level you're at, but he's great, and he used to go and do these live sets at the Comedy Zone when it was here local. And they even, if I remember correctly, and I'm sure Brandon, I'll show him this, so I'm sorry, dude, if I'm misspeaking, but I want to say he hosted too. Like the Comedy Zone ended up hiring him to like host the night and bring the other comedians on, and he would do like a little opening set too. So I could definitely, and he's got all the comedy connections around here. So I could definitely see linking you two up and letting you two who know the game work it out. I could definitely see that being a success.
Yeah, because, I'll headline the joint, but like I would need openers from the area and a host from the area.
Yeah.
So he would be able to help out with that because he knows the comics in that area, and maybe even he knows like a perfect venue for this because I can't sell out any arenas. We're looking at maybe a couple hundred seater.
Sure.
Keep it like
we have those.
Something like something like that. You know what I mean? I'm not opposed to doing a show at a bar too. I'm not opposed. I mean, I'm open to like whatever, as long as there's room for people and we think we can make it happen. So yeah. That would be tremendously helpful.
Well, let's shelf this. Let's talk more about it off air. Jonesy, dude, I am so thankful, grateful you took the time to talk to me tonight. And I want to do it again. Let's do another podcast in like 6 months or a year. If you come down here and do a show, we'll do another episode.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, we'll keep in touch. And I'm flattered that you reached out to me about doing this. I'm happy to do it. I hope your listeners found this entertaining and
it was great.
And got something out of it, and I wish everybody a happy new year as well. If they want to follow me on the gram, it's at Funny Jones. Super easy. Funny Jones.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, Jones, you have a good night, my friend. Thank you so much.
You too, Nick. Happy New Year, buddy.